I just think that since I have posted a second week in a row of 5Rec Friday, I deserve a large pizza.
Hey y'all, it's troy-nicole, and today I have another 5RecFri Friday. I feel like I just did one, which I kind of sort of did. Yeah, I pretty much already did one, but that was last week, and this is this week. And this week, all of you guys voted, and it was between historical romances and virgin heroines. And all of you guys shockingly chose virgin heroines. I actually really thought everyone was going to choose historical romances, but virgin heroines won. So here are my 5 recommendations of virgin heroines. Okay, so I think the first one I'm going to put is probably the most famous one out of all of these, and this is Losing It by Cora Carmack. This story is about a girl named Bliss. She tells her best friend Kelsey that she is a virgin, and so her best friend decides it would be a good idea to get her virginity lost one night. So while they're in college one night, they go to a bar and she meets a guy and hooks up with him, only to find out the next day that he is her new teacher. Obviously, it's forbidden for a teacher to date his student, whether she is of age or not. So they kind of just like let it go and try to just move past their little hookup. And however, Bliss cannot seem to move past it, and neither can Garrick. And it's basically how they deal with being a teacher and student. So if you're also into Forbidden Love, that's also in there. This one's very lighthearted, and quite honestly, there's not a lot of smut in it. So if you're looking for something more smutty, it's not that. Now this story is a little bit more centered around virginity. There are some stories that are like the character is a virgin, but it doesn't really matter to the plot. However, the main plot of the story is that she's a virgin. So if you're looking for something that is more centered around her virginity, this is the story for you. Now if you're looking for something that's a little bit more smutty, this is not that smutty, and quite frankly at all, but you do get a few things, not much though. So if you're looking for something a little more sweet, this is for you. Smutty, just wait, I got you smutty too. The next book I'm going to recommend for you guys is Until Niko by Aurora Rose Reynolds. That was kind of a tongue twister. So Until Niko is actually in a series of brothers. I think there's 5 of them, and it is called the Until series, and it chronicles, I think there's like 5 brothers, and Niko is like, he's like the 4th book. I didn't know that when I got it, but this is a series that surrounds 5 brothers. I think it's 5. Please tell me it's 5. That are kind of cursed, but it's not like a real curse, but they're cursed with something called the boom, and it's the men in the Mason family. All, when they finally meet the woman they're supposed to be there forever, they feel the boom, where they just automatically know she's the one. And one day when Niko finds a phone and returns it to a girl named Sophie, he realizes that's his boom and doesn't just let her walk away from him. Meanwhile, Sophie has spent most of her life after her teenage years being alone and kind of just closing off to the world after events of her past with her father have really haunted her in the years. But Niko forces her out of her shell, and their relationship is just so cute. Niko is so cute with her. I really like alpha male books, not gonna lie, that's really my thing. And I also love when the heroine isn't like, I like when they're sweet, but I also kind of like when they're like sweet but a little sassy, like they don't let him take anything. However, their world kind of comes crumbling down when Sophie gets a stalker. That's not really a spoiler or anything because it happens pretty early on in the book. And yeah, so their world kind of just comes crashing down because this guy's a lunatic. The next one I actually read a very long time ago, so I had to reread the synopsis. I remember like being on the fence on whether I liked it. I kind of want to reread it to see if I would like it now though. And that's Playing for Keeps in the Neighbor from Hell series by R.L. Mathewson. This story is about a girl named Haley who's tired of being a pushover, and she decides that she is going to stick it to her neighbor. And she decides she's going to stick it to her neighbor, who they kind of butt heads, and they're also co-workers at school because they're both teachers. So Jason decides one day to take her under his wing so she can stop being this soft little flower. However, after cuddling and hanging out and all this stuff, they realize that they actually really like each other. And I think my biggest problem with this was the problem they had really wasn't a problem. So it was more just kind of like a trope I didn't like, but I'm not going to spoil that for you. Honestly, I don't remember a ton about this book, so if you want to read it, you should probably go read a better synopsis than me, the girl who's recommending books, who should be able to give a synopsis. Okay, the next one is Attraction by Penny Reid. This is so infuriating to me. The book is not infuriating. I actually really like the books, but notice I said books plural because for whatever reason, the first book is 160 Kindle ebook pages, and then there's 2 other books when this should really just be one whole book and not expect you to pay like $6-7 times 3, which it just sounds like a money grab to me. But I digress. I still really like this series, so that's why I had to recommend it. So this book is about a girl named Caitlin and her chemistry lab partner in college, Martin. After she finds out about a plan to take him down, she alerts him, and he uses this as a way to get closer to her because he's been harboring some really lust-filled tendencies towards her. However, Martin is very serious as to not just want sex from her and doesn't really care that she's a virgin anyway. So he decides to ask her to spend a week with him at his beach house over the spring break, and she reluctantly agrees, and he uses this as a chance to get her out of her shell because she is honestly might be one of my favorite characters I've read this year. She is so funny. I love her, and Martin is so sweet. I haven't read the last book yet, but everyone says she does kind of get a little whiny in that one, but you have to read all 3 books because they all end in cliffhangers except the last one, which is kind of fucking annoying, but whatever. So the last book I am going to recommend for you guys is Make Me Bad by R.S. Gray. R.S. Gray might have like every trope in existence on her belt. This book is about a man named Ben. He needs to do community service hours after getting into a bar fight, and he takes on a community service project at the library where he runs into Madison, who he had just saved her from a life or death situation. Madison reluctantly agrees to let him volunteer there for his community service hours, but only if he makes her bad. She is the police chief's daughter as well as a cop's sister, so she has always been put in this little shell and not really let do anything. So even though he thinks this is a terrible idea, he agrees to help her be bad and also lose her virginity. However, like most of these stories go, she starts developing feelings for him as he does her, even though her dad and brother hate him to death, and most of their town does too, even though he technically, his family kind of like owns the town and created the town. But she sees another side of Ben that no one else sees, and so do I, because he is swoon worthy. I just realized I didn't like say for the other ones if they were smutty or if they were like more zoned towards virginity or not. So let me just go backwards. Until Niko is smutty, but I don't think it's like outrageously so, like, or it kind of is. I think the biggest problem you might have is how the story is written. For me, the story is written a little too rushed. Like at one point it'll be like they just met and then they jumped like 2 weeks and they're like having makeout sessions on the couch. But all in all, I feel like my biggest problem with this author, because a lot of her books are like this, is that it's kind of jumpy and sporadic, and I don't really like that. As well as it's not centered around the girl's virginity. Like I think Sophie, like she mentions that she's a virgin, but it's not like really that big in the story's general plot line. Playing for Keeps is a lot like Losing It as far as the center of the whole story being about her virginity. So there's that, and this one is very smutty. I won't even lie. Like, not even in the sense that there's like smut in every single turn, but I do vaguely remember it being like dirty. Like, I'm pretty sure like he says something about eating cake off her ass. So, okay, Attraction, the first book, is not... It's not like super smutty, to be honest. Like there are sexual scenes in the first 2, but I think you don't really get to like the hot part until the second book, which is called Heat, which obviously that's when like the sexiness really comes into play, as well as I don't think attraction is as centered around virginity as it is around like the first love concept. And Make Me Bad's a little bit more angsty than all of the other ones. I won't say it's not like smutty, but like my definition of smutty is that the book takes on a lot of sex scenes, but this one does not. It's very angsty because Ben is doing whatever he can to really not want her, even though he really does. So you'll get a lot more angst in this one than he did the other 4. Because the other 4 are like more so like, she mine, that's dead, I don't want her, I'ma have her. But Make Me Bad's a little bit more push and pull. So yeah, that clears up all 5 of my virgin heroine recommendations. I actually didn't realize some people really liked Virgin Heroine Story. I like it, but I think it can be done really bad because some virgin heroine stories will go from her being this virgin and innocent girl who couldn't even like think of kissing a boy to her going, chain me up, spank me, and put butt plugs in my ass. And then the other side, when it comes to virginity, a lot of times virgin stories are YA because they're teenagers, but I think there's some like weird thing this generation has about thinking that you can't be a virgin as a young adult or an adult. But obviously you can. There is nothing wrong with being a virgin. I just wish some of these virgin stories had characters who didn't all love to read and just sit at home and go to the library. I mean, can they have other interests? Like, I don't know. Can one of these bitches like play soccer or something? Like, can they have other ambitions like others than that? Like, they can still be homebodies and I don't know, want to hoop in the backyard. Like, that's all I'm saying. But anyway, that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed. And if you want to be in on the voting for 5Rec Friday, go follow me on Bookish Wallflower on Instagram. I put up polls every week, and this week I have forgotten to pick 2 tropes. So you know what, if you have any ideas of what trope you want to do, leave down below any suggestions that you may have, and I will think about it because I just remembered I didn't think of one. So until next time, do what you love, create what you love, and